A single father, a deserted mountain road, a young woman left to die in a storm. What Jackson Harper discovered that rainy October evening wasn't just an act of cruelty. It was a calculated plan to commit the perfect crime, a plan that would have worked if he hadn't taken one wrong turn. This is the story of how one decision to stop changed 3 lives forever. The rain was coming down in sheets, the kind that makes you question every decision that led you to this moment. Jackson Harper squinted through his windshield, wipers working overtime against the downpour as he navigated the sharp curves of the Blue Ridge Parkway, the forgotten stretch that cuts through the mountains outside Asheville, North Carolina. Construction on I-26 had forced him onto this lonely road that winds through abandoned farms and ghost towns the interstate left behind. He was already late, already calculating how to apologize to his 12-year-old daughter Sophie for missing her dance recital. When he saw it first, he thought it was a trick of the rain, a shape that didn't belong on the shoulder. But as his headlights sliced through the storm and his breath caught at a wheelchair, someone was sitting in it. What the hell? Jackson's hands tightened on the wheel as he slowed. Out here? In this weather? The figure didn't move, just sat hunched under the relentless rain. He pulled over without thinking, hazards flashing red through the gray, boots splashing into ankle-deep water. As he got closer, he heard it. Deep, broken sobbing that somehow cut through the roar of the storm. Ma'am? Ma'am, can you hear me? When she lifted her head, Jackson felt his heart crack in two. She couldn't have been more than 25. Long platinum blonde hair plastered to her face, hazel eyes wide with terror and disbelief, like she couldn't believe someone had actually stopped. Please! Her voice was barely a whisper, shaking from cold and something darker. Please don't leave me here. I'm not going anywhere, Jackson said, and he meant it. What's your name? Lila. Lila Monroe. She was shivering so violently she could barely speak. They left me. Anger hit him like a punch. Who left you? But Lila just shook her head, tears mixing with rain. He didn't ask again. He simply scooped her out of the wheelchair. She weighed almost nothing, like a broken bird, and carried her to his silver Ford Explorer. She clung to his jacket with frozen fingers while he folded the wheelchair and threw it in the trunk. Inside, heat blasting, he handed her a thermos of coffee. She wrapped both trembling hands around it like it was the only warm thing left in the world. We're getting you to a hospital, he said, reaching for his phone. No, the word exploded out of her. Please, no hospital. They'll find me. They'll finish what they started. Jackson turned fully in his seat. Who, Lila? Who will find you? Her eyes met his, and what he saw there made his blood run cold. Pure, raw fear. My stepmother and my stepbrother. They did this. They left me here to die. The words hung between them, so insane he almost thought he'd misheard. But the terror on her face told him everything. She was telling the truth that he made the choice right then, one that would later feel either foolish or heaven-sent. Okay, no hospital, but you're coming home with me. You're safe now. Jackson pulled back onto the Blue Ridge Parkway, already calling Sophie's dance teacher to ask if she could drop his daughter home. His neighbor, Mrs. Margaret Collins, a retired nurse, would be there. He trusted her with his life, and now with someone else's as he drove. Lila spoke in broken pieces, voice growing stronger as warmth returned. I was out there 4 hours in the rain. I screamed until my throat bled. I really thought I was going to die and no one would ever know what they did. How did you end up here? They said it was a family trip to help us grieve together after Dad died. A spa weekend in the mountains. But they took roads I didn't recognize. Then Tyler said the engine was acting up. Victoria told me to get some air, that the view was beautiful. Her voice cracked. They put me in the wheelchair, positioned me just right, and drove away. Tyler looked back once. I screamed his name. He just stared. Then they were gone. Jackson's knuckles went white on the wheel. How long ago did your father pass? 3 weeks. Massive stroke. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. I'm sorry, Jackson said, and meant it. He knew that pain. His wife Emily had died 4 years earlier, complications from what was supposed to be routine surgery. 1 minute laughing at breakfast, the next, gone. He was everything to me, Lila whispered, especially after my accident. Your accident? Horseback riding. I was 15. Jumped a fence. Woke up, couldn't feel my legs. Paralyzed from the waist down ever since. The pieces clicked sickeningly into place. So your dad took care of you, and when he remarried, I thought Victoria was kind. Tyler was charming. But it was all an act. The little comments started when Dad wasn't around. How expensive my care was. How maybe I'd be happier in a facility. I told myself I was paranoid. They pulled into Jackson's driveway in Hendersonville. Mrs. Margaret was already hurrying over with an umbrella. Jackson Harper, what in the name of heaven, what? I need your help, Margaret. This is Lila. She's in real danger. 20 minutes later, Lila was in dry clothes borrowed from Emily's old closet, wrapped in blankets on the couch, clutching chamomile tea with both hands. Mrs. Margaret declared her lucky to have avoided hypothermia and went to make more tea while Jackson called Sophie's ride. When Sophie walked in and saw a stranger in a wheelchair in their living room, she didn't freak out. She walked straight to Lila. Are you okay? Lila looked stunned that a child would ask so directly. I'm getting there. She needs our help, sweetheart, Jackson said. She's staying with us for a while. Sophie didn't hesitate. She can have the downstairs guest room. It's all one level, and it has its own bathroom. Jackson's chest swelled with pride. His daughter had her mother's heart. That night, Lila told them everything. The will reading 2 days after the funeral, the $2.3 million inheritance left almost entirely to her, the healing trip that ended with her abandoned on a mountain road in October rain. Sophie listened wide-eyed from the floor. Jackson paced, his old investigator brain already working. We go to the police tonight. They've already beaten us there, Lila said quietly. They'll have filed a missing person report. They'll say I wandered off at a rest stop on I-26. They're smart, Jackson. They planned this. She was right. But Jackson had spent 15 years catching liars for insurance companies. Liars always make mistakes, he said. Always. The next morning, the police were skeptical. Victoria and Tyler Lang had been on every local news station, tearful, organizing search parties. Without physical evidence, it was her word against theirs. But Jackson didn't stop. For 3 weeks, he worked like it was the biggest case of his life. While Lila healed and Sophie helped her feel at home, he pulled credit card records, social media geotags, interviewed neighbors, and at 2 a.m. one night he found it. A charge on Tyler's card at Craggy Gardens Overlook gas station on the Blue Ridge Parkway at 3:47 p.m., the day Lila was abandoned, while Victoria and Tyler claimed to be 50 miles away, searching for her. The station owner still had 90 days of cloud footage. One subpoena later, they watched Tyler's black Mercedes pull in, coming from the south, from the exact direction Lila had been left. Timestamp, 3:47 p.m. Both faces crystal clear. They weren't searching. They were running. 6 weeks after that rainy October night, Victoria Lang was arrested at hot yoga. Tyler was dragged out of his apartment in pajama pants. The charges: attempted murder, vulnerable adult abuse, fraud, conspiracy. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The courtroom was packed every day. Lila sat at the plaintiff's table in her wheelchair, calm and devastating on the stand. When the jury came back after 3 hours, guilty on all counts. 15 years each. Outside the courthouse, Lila broke down sobbing in her wheelchair. Jackson knelt and let her cry into his shoulder. It's over, he whispered. It's really over. Life after was strange and beautiful. Lila used part of her inheritance to make the Harper home fully accessible, ramps, wider doors, roll-in shower, and insisted on paying her share of bills. Sophie taught her TikTok dances from the side. Lila taught Sophie watercolor painting from her chair. One night, Sophie told Jackson, "She's like a mom, but not replacing mom. Does that make sense?" It did. And slowly, something shifted between Jackson and Lila. The way she laughed at his terrible dad jokes. The way he made her coffee exactly how she liked it without asking. The late-night talks after Sophie went to bed. Mrs. Margaret noticed first, bringing peach cobbler and winking. "That girl puts the light back in your eyes, Jackson Harper. 3 months after the trial, on a cold January night, Lila was making hot chocolate when Jackson came home. "Lila, are you happy here?" She wheeled over, confused. "Of course. Why?" "Because you have the money, the big house in Asheville. You could go anywhere." Understanding dawned. "Are you trying to get rid of me, Jackson Harper?" "No," he said, too loud. "God, no. I need to know you're staying because you want to, not because you feel you owe me." She reached for his hand. "I'm staying because this is the first place I've felt like I belong since Dad died. Because Sophie makes me laugh, because Margaret feeds me too much, and because you make me feel safe. You see me, not the chair. Me." He kissed her then. No planning, just need. When they pulled apart, she whispered, "I've wanted to do that for 2 months. Shut up and kiss me again." An hour later, Sophie walked in, saw their joined hands, rolled her eyes and said, "Finally, even Mrs. Margaret had a betting pool." 9 months after the rainy night, on a warm July evening, Jackson found Lila and Sophie in the garden teaching Sophie how to stake tomatoes. Sunset painted everything gold that he proposed that night on the back porch under fireflies, kneeling beside her chair. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Exactly 1 year to the day after he found her on that mountain road, they married in the backyard in Hendersonville. Autumn leaves, 50 guests, string lights, Mrs. Margaret crying in the front row. Sophie is maid of honor in Burgundy. Jackson's vows ended with, "Lila Monroe, you turned my worst detour into the best thing that ever happened to me." Lila's, "Jackson Harper, you stopped when the world drove past. You gave me a home, a daughter, a future I never thought possible. I promise to love you fiercely, to show up every single day, even in the rain." Sophie's speech at the reception. "A year ago, my dad brought home a stranger who needed help, and I gained a second mom who chose us. Thank you for showing me strength isn't about legs. It's about heart." As the sun set, Jackson stood behind Lila's chair, hands on her shoulders, watching their family laugh under the lights. "Happy?" he asked softly. "Beyond words," she whispered, tilting her face up to him. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. Now I can't imagine it any other way." The Blue Ridge Parkway still winds through those mountains. Rain still falls, washing away old sins. But in a little house in Hendersonville, North Carolina, there is only sunshine, laughter, and the quiet certainty of 3 people who lost everything and found each other. Sometimes the greatest rescues don't just save a life. They build a new one worth living. If this story touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe, because every week we bring you real stories that prove love and kindness can triumph even in the darkest storms. All it takes is one person who refuses to drive past.